Welcome to episode 4 of 101 Mobility Conversations. I am really pleased to spend some time with our guest today. He's not only a franchise owner, he's our brand leader in Birmingham, Alabama. He's also a father, a husband, and a very tall guy.
There you go.
You won't see that here, but I wanted to welcome Derek Gann to the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Nashville, being here, great city, great location. Excited to be just north of Broad, so close to that, to be able to be kind of close to the atmosphere. This hotel, the selection has been terrific, easy to get to, all the feels.
We're right in the heart of it. Broadway is right over there. Behind us is the Nashville Music Center, and the Hall of Fame is right down the street.
Country music is playing everywhere, and so for a guy born and raised in the South, like that's me. That's what I listen to.
So we're here actually for our national conference that we do every year. And so we'll have hundreds of people attending, actually 180 to be exact. But our franchise owners, some key employees, our supplier partners, and the entire brand support team will all gather and coalesce around a great agenda, have some fun, and look at a roadmap and talk about how we're going to grow this business and serve more lives. So speaking of that, how did you wind up buying the 101 franchise in Birmingham, Alabama?
Yeah, how'd I end up here? So I think it's a great story. It's my life, right? So so I kind of got my feet wet doing entrepreneurship, doing business ownership. Well, before that, I guess I went and ran and managed a location for a company called John Deere Landscapes. Just realized, was able to be there, kind of grow it, invest in the people and in the community. But then I hit a ceiling, right? Like, this is as far as I could go. And then I talked with my area manager, and he basically said, I need 3 more years in a different role before you have the potential to do something else. And so it was at that point that I really started praying about it, talking to different mentors, talking to my dad, and he kind of suggested Chick-fil-A. And so Chick-fil-A is actually where I got my feet wet, being a business owner. So I spent almost 6.5 years with them, 3 of it, or 2.5 working in a restaurant underneath somebody doing an apprenticeship, and then just over 3 running it for myself. And so that was out in Southern California. So I was able to do that and experience that culture out there, and the different life for this Southern guy that's from Georgia, 2,000 miles away from everybody and anything he's ever known. And so it was a great time of growth for me, business-wise, professionally, spiritually, and I was thought that was kind of be my life. I thought I was going to be a Chick-fil-A guy, but the Lord had different plans, and He brought my wife back into the picture. So we'd actually been dating before I moved out there. So we were dating for about a year. I took what we call a season of growth while I went out there, and she went to Montgomery. And then we reconnected, realized that, hey, life just really stinks without the other person. And so we were trying to find a way to get back together. And so that's when I decided to sell the restaurant back to them, to the corporate office, moved to Montgomery, Alabama. So I went from living 150 yards off the Pacific Ocean to Montgomery, Alabama. Quite a change of scenery. And but it was the best move that I made, right? It's because I got to marry my best friend. We got to start a life together there. But it was from there that I thought, and I didn't really know a word for it. I didn't know that I was really an entrepreneur even at the time. I just knew that I wanted to be able to use my skills, develop people, and not really have a cap on my life. And so I explored a couple different options to insurance. And then we actually moved from Montgomery up to Birmingham. For those who may not be familiar, Montgomery is the capital, a little bit south Alabama. Birmingham is right dead center almost in the state. And so we moved up there. And once we did that, that's when a family friend of ours, who's a franchise selling consultant, she knew my past, knew the history, knew my wife, and kind of presented 101 to us. And so it was about 7 months of dating, if you will, between talking with family about it, praying about it, talking with the leadership at 101 about it, and then really we kind of came to the decision in January 31st of 17 is when we signed our contract, and we opened our doors September 18th of 17. So we were hustling to get us open.
Amazing story. A little bit of, I think I may have shared this with you, but I actually considered buying a Chick-fil-A in Poway, California, San Diego.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was, I think, 2004 or 5.
That would have been rough.
It would have been rough. I was so impressed with the process, though. It was
Oh, the process is great. California for a Southern company with Christian values is not always so great, and so we were on the front lines, and people just they didn't like the sandwiches the way that Southern people do, and that's the culture that I grew up in, and so it was a little bit, there was some clashing there, but it was all good.
So when you were so that that journey where you met the team and everything else, and 7 months can be typical to make a really good decision. Was there a trigger or a point in which you went, that's the moment?
There absolutely wasn't. And so I don't know if I can give you a date or a time, but when we look to invest in a business, or when I want to jump into a business, we look for a market that's got a niche that's going to be growing, currently growing, and with the future projection of growing. So that's what 101 had. And then we wanted to be able to have a positive impact on a community. Like, we're not at 101, we're not transactional based. We build relationships with our clients, we build relationships with our team and with our community. A lot of our clients, we don't just see them one day and then we don't see them again. I mean, we develop a relationship with them, and we come back and help them out with their products or service their products years later. So it had a good growth in the industry with projected growth. It was something where we could have a positive impact, and we could literally change somebody's lives when we walk out the door. And then the third thing that 101 had was that we could leave a legacy. And when I say we, it's me and my wife, that we could leave a legacy both financially for our kids, both in our community, and then with our team. And so when we kind of ironed it out, and that just was, and through prayer about it, when that was just kind of revealed to us, like, hey, this company offers all three things we look for businesses and for our life. And so that was really the trigger, first part of June, middle of June, I think, when we said, yeah, this is it. And then it was okay, well, let's finance it. Let's figure out how to finance it. And that took about a month, and then we were off.
Interesting you mentioned legacy, because I think a mentor and a coach once shared with me years ago that really there's three things when you're building your career or you're looking at it from that perspective. It's legacy. What are you going to leave behind? 2, your reputation. Are you treating people right? And then third is, can you build wealth for your family and for those around you? And, governed by those three things, it'll help you make the right decisions going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, we started off with 3 people when we first opened. Myself, actually my brother works with us, and then we had an office manager. So now we're up to 10 people, right, including me. And so, you look at it, and speaking of legacy, it's like, man, those 9 people that I wouldn't have known is 9 people, lives that we're able to impact, 9 people whose lives I'm able to pour into, 9 people's lives who we all collectively are able to provide monetary freedom for them. And so, that's to me part of the draw of owning a business is being able to provide that legacy for people. And I want people walking away, whether they leave, especially when they leave us and go on to good things and bigger things, to have great things to say about us and create that culture where people want to come work for you.
Look at it this way. Those 9 people are all going to leave one day, and they're going to spread the good word that you left with them. And that's how you build your reputation, but also you have no idea the impact you're going to have on their lives like you do today. And that's a gift. And small business, you're so involved in it every day. And then, they start having kids and everything else, and you're just, you're almost like Papa in the business.
Well, and it's fun too, because you go to sports events, right? It's like we've been to team members' kids' basketball games and baseball games and all of that, and helping. One team member is going to be moving, I think, this Friday. I'm not going to be there, but hey, you can use a company van. I offer the company van for her instead of having to rent a car, and so that's great to be able to plug in like that. But and then it extends into the community, because you don't always get thank yous for what you do, and you don't do what you do to get that. But when you go out and you see a guy whose only entrance into his house is through the basement, right? And then you leave, and he's now able to get up his steps to get to his bedroom that he hasn't been in for 2 years because he just can't get up there. And so you don't know, this side of eternity, you don't know what kind of impact that really had on his life. You just know that this is what you've been called to do. I know this is what I've been called to do. And so, we want to be good stewards of what we have, our resources, our time, our efforts, and, just really impact people.
So you mentioned that example of someone getting to the second floor, but when you first started, was there a job or a solution or a family you serve that you went, wait a minute, this is what I was meant to do? We help people in our...
Yeah. So there's actually two of them that came to mind, like right when you said that. One of them, I'll tell you this. So when we first started off, we get trained on stair lifts and we get trained on vertical platform lifts and auto lifts and some of those core products that we do. And I distinctly remember our trainer, who's still with us, Mitch, and we laugh about it, but he's talking about patient lifts. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, those will come. Like, hardly anybody sells those, the first year especially. It wasn't even 2 months. And we had sold a 3-room system with just all the bells and whistles. It went underneath the door frame. It had what we call a turntable where it would pivot. But the whole reason why this lady bought it from us was because it was actually my brother who was out doing the sales on this job. He mentioned that, hey, now with your disabled son, you're not going to have to change his diaper on the floor anymore. You're going to be able to lift him up to where you can also stand up and have good posture and change him on a changing table now and no longer on the floor. And she recounts that back to us. She's like, you want to know why I bought from you? This. Like, you said this, and this was my pain point. And then another family that we served, also a patient lift system, but he was actually abused by his father when he was younger, which is why he's disabled. And so they were renovating the house, trying to push to get it done so that he could then live there with his grandparents. And so we were able to provide like automatic door openers for him, some threshold ramps, and a patient lift system as well. But just kind of the heart of our team, right? Like we're pushing to get this done, and time's running out. So there was a couple of us that gathered as a team. It was 10 o'clock. I bought some pizza for us, and we went over to this house 10 o'clock p.m. and we went over to this house and worked till about 2:30 in the morning just to try to push to get this job done so this kid could live there and move in. And so it's projects like that tug at your heart, right? It's sometimes the grab bar in the bathroom, that's solving a problem. But when you can physically see the people who are impacted, who are, disabled from it and to improve their lives, like, man, that fires you up. Like that wakes you up in the morning ready to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've told this story many times. I mean, every morning I get all the customer feedback, and I'm still amazed that we get letters mailed into headquarters that with perfect cursive writing that tells these
Nobody does cursive anymore, by the way.
But our customers do.
Our customers do, that's right.
But these stories they tell, they're literally little novels of how we impacted people's lives, and it's still a special part of my day reading all those. Derek, you've talked about how you're impacting the lives of people who work for you, and you talk about the lives that you help live better lives or longer lives in their homes. How has this business impacted your life and your family?
I joke with my wife, just kind of sarcastically, but like, I'm on vacation every day. Like, I love what I do. I love getting up in the morning and going into work. So it's changed mentally, it's changed me a little bit from some of the previous life that I've had. But really, when you kind of ask that question, it focuses in on my kids. So as you mentioned earlier in the introduction, I appreciate that. I have 4 kids, 10, 8, 5, because they just turned 5, and 3. And so for them to be able to see dad, mom, be able to go to work, to invest. But one-on-one mobility is not also something that we do, it's who we are in reality. And so when we go walking down the street or we go to a grocery store, my kids are now going up and saying hello to the kid that's in the wheelchair or the adult that's in the walker or that has the walker, because they've learned those are people too. A lot of times, we've talked to quite a few parents of disabled kids, and they just talk about the stares they get, right? People don't want to talk to them. They think something's weird. But really all those parents want is for somebody to acknowledge their child. And so when we can kind of teach that to our kids and let our kids then act on that, right, when they're in public, like that's how it's impacted us, as a family, the ability to be able to do that. And then, kind of professionally, a word we've used a couple of times, legacy. I mean, just to be able to grow something from the bottom up, along with plugging in with the franchise, right? Like we're good people that can plug and play. I'm not quite smart enough to develop something on my own, But if you give me a formula and a process, I'm gonna plug in and I'm gonna go hard at it. And so that's been impactful to be able to see that professionally, personally, and then just be able to provide for people like we mentioned earlier. That's been a huge part of this.
So we have a franchise advisory council, and Derek's a member on that. And I'm relatively new, just starting earlier in 2023. And you've been a tremendous help to me as to learning the business, understand we're not just a business that makes money. We really do serve people in our community. I'm blessed because the Wilmington location is out of our building, so I get a chance to see it every day and watching those dollars go out. But I really want to thank you for everything you've done to help lead the brand. I mean, 6 years in, you've built a great business, and I'm just real proud of the work we do out in Birmingham, and just honored to work with you on the Franchise Advisory Council. And thanks for spending time today with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. It's a fun industry. It's a great great way to spend your days. Like if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
That wraps up our time with Derek Gann on 101 Mobility Conversations. We'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.